Iron Man's a really, he has a lot of fallibilities as a character. Obviously, he's heroic too. Talk about what you're considering there, because I mean, his character arc is actually for social change, going from a military industrialist into somebody that actually cares about other people and maybe doesn't want to destroy them.
Yeah, it was.
Speak up.
Yeah, I think, going back to what Stan gives you in terms of what to work with, you have a character who has these insane contradictions and socially, personally, certainly in terms of responsibility for the world he lives in. And I think with characters like that, you really, it is a gift to a screenwriter because the contradiction, the thing that you're going to tell the whole story about, especially in the modern political era where you didn't want to go, liberal chest thumping kind of message movie. You didn't want to go, Fox News, WMD, but you can pull all those facets into a story where, somebody who was written in the Vietnam era, it perfectly reflects the same conflict that the country is going through, that just a man is going through who is looking to find a sense of responsibility. So again, we always thank Stan and the creators for giving. I mean, it's not a mistake that these characters do translate so well because they have these built-in fantastic issues they have to work through an origin story and then beyond that. But you just can't go wrong with that. There's so much grist to work with, and Iron Man, because of those superpowers, because of the modern era that that we live in, that reflects his struggle. You really felt like you knew where you had to go with that origin story, and the track was laid out. There's certain things you were responsible for in getting that story out.
Love it. Going back down the line, Stan, since you co-created both of these projects, talk about co-creating The Incredible Hulk.
I had already done the Fantastic Four, and I was looking for something else. I said, what can I do that's different? And the first thing you try to think of is a different superpower and a different look to the character. For some reason, I thought maybe it would be fun to have a monster who was really a good guy, because I had always loved the old Frankenstein movie with Boris Karloff. I always felt the monster was really the good guy, but those idiots with torches kept chasing him up and down the hills for no reason. So I figured, all right, I'm going to do that. But then, okay, so you have a monster. What do you do with them? So I figured it might be fun to also borrow, I'm a great borrower, to also borrow from Jekyll and Hyde. So all I did was totally copy Frankenstein and Jekyll and Hyde. I didn't give them any royalties. I took it all. And the big problem, I got to tell you this, I learned with the Fantastic Four, because I didn't give them costumes. And the book sold very well. We knew we had a hit, but all the fan mail we got said, we love the book, but we'll never buy another issue unless you give them costumes. And I don't need a house to fall on me. I figured for some reason comic book fans love costumes on their superheroes. So here I had the Hulk. What excuse could I get for a big green monster to want, well, he wasn't green at the time, I just thought of him, for a big monster to want to get a costume? So I felt I'll do the next best thing. I'll give him a color skin that'll kind of look costumey. So to show you how stupid I am, instead of picking green right away, I thought gray would be good. It's mysterious and dark and foreboding. So I gave him gray skin, but I didn't know the printer would have trouble with the color gray. So on one page he was light gray, on one page he was dark gray, on one page he looked almost black, white. Something told me that was not a good color. So in the second issue, I looked around for color nobody was using, and I found green. I didn't know of any characters who were green at the moment. So I said to the colorist, make them green. I didn't realize that was profound, and it was brilliant. It was just green instead of a costume. And lo, the rest is history.
That's good.
But there's one thing I want to mention, because you were talking about villains. And in writing the comics, and I guess in doing movies too, you'll find out as you move along when you do the sequels, the toughest thing to do with a superhero is get a good opponent for him. Because the superhero is so powerful. Now you take somebody like the Hulk. if you don't have somebody like an Abomination who's even stronger, what are you going to do? So I took the cowardly way out a few times. I created a character called the Leader, who was the opposite of the Hulk. He was a little weak guy, but he had a head about that big with a big brain. So I figured it'd be brains against brawn, and that worked for a while. But where do you go from there? And that is always the problem. You mentioned the X-Men. Magneto was perfect because in his own way, he was stronger than any of them. Because if you can move metal, guy aims a gun at you, you have the gun come out of his hand. Guy is chasing you in a car, you have the car go up in the air and crash. Whatever it is. Of course, at the end, they put him playing chess in a room with no metal. It was all plastic, but don't worry about it. He finds ways out. But anyway, to get to the point, the toughest thing, you want your superhero to have a superpower, but then, well, you do it for a movie once in a while and a sequel, but when you're doing a comic book month after month after month, you've got to think of somebody bigger and stronger and more dangerous and make it somehow believable or palatable to the readers, acceptable to the reader. So I think the next time you do a Marvel, you ought to do one just as villains, because to me they are the most fascinating characters.
You guys have been very generous with your time. Give it up again for Mark.